Welcome back to Locked On 49ers, everybody, on this Thursday night, Friday morning edition of the pod, as we do every week to end the week to get you ready for the next game. It's week 13 and the Seahawks. Keys to victory for beating those Seahawks in Seattle in week 13. Injury report, and I think it's time to give some major propers to one of the 49ers players in the defensive backfield coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you once again at BD Peacock on Twitter. You know me, football analyst. You might have seen some of my work in the past, doing stuff on air, reporting traffic in the Bay Area on the radio, PFF, infographics, writing blurbs at RotoWire. Croc, former champion. You got your ring, Croc? Former AFL champion, NFL player as well, defensive back. You can see one of his jerseys back there, which is the San Jose SaberCats. We're talking about a champion. Look at that ring. Look at that rock, the Croc rock. I love it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Before we get to keys to victory for week 13 on today's show and the injury report and what this game is going to start looking like for those San Francisco 49ers, I want to shout out all the listeners, Croc, all the brand new subscribers on our YouTube channel. Hello to everybody who's watching us on the tube and everybody listening in their car on Spotify. We saw a ton of Spotify raps and people.
That was cool.
Unbelievable, right, Croc?
That was cool.
All the hours and episodes folks are listening to and seeing us up there in their top 5 or their number 1 podcast.
Number 1, most of them.
There was a ton of number 1s, man.
Yeah.
Locked On 49ers was up there in a lot of 1 spots, a lot of 1 holes, which I loved seeing there. So shout out to everybody. A couple, actually. Let's see if I have these up here. Yes, I do have these up here. By the way, global, right, Croc? We're global here. Shout out to the entire country of Germany and specifically Leo from Munich. He said, "Hey, guys, I'm curious if anyone has heard more minutes than I have. Let's get the winner a guest appearance, huh? Love the pod. Keep up the great work. Greetings from Munich, Germany." Appreciate the shout out, Leo. You're his number 1 pod for the year. He listened to 160 episodes and 6,440 minutes of Locked On.
That's got to be the most. That's got to be the most I saw.
Not only was Leo, I mean, he threw it out. He threw it out there. He threw down. He said, "Who can come beat me?" Not only was Leo not the number 1 as far as minutes goes from all of our listeners that I've heard from before, by the way, at BD Peacock, at Eric_Crocker. If you got more minutes than Leo, I want to hear about it. He wasn't even the person that listened the most in Germany, Croc.
Wow.
Did you see this one? Hold on. Oh, no, now I lost it. Don't tell me I lost it. I got to find it here. Okay. It was... Oh, no. Yes, here we go. Cheers from Leipzig. This is 410 Niner. He listened to 7,045 minutes and 191 episodes of Locked On 49ers. So,
wow.
Strong support from Germany. That is fantastic. I love it. You know, we're big in the States too, but I really get excited when I hear about people globally in other countries listening to Locked On 49ers, man. It's fantastic.
Shout out to the German homies.
Yeah. Shout out. Crocky, here's the other one. We got to keep this thing rolling. We're coming up on 3 million downloads. This is not counting the YouTube stuff, just the audio side of the podcast. We're coming up on 3 million downloads for the year. We're at about 275 right now. I think we can hit 3 million, but we got to stay strong through the year. We've got about 3 weeks left. We got about 20 maybe podcasts before the year is done. But we got to stay strong here with our numbers and get to that 3 million number because that's a huge benchmark for us. Will be a new record for Locked On 49ers, and I appreciate you jumping on this year with me, Croc, and help making that happen.
Well, I think that what really helps is the 49ers winning, probably even more so than me being on here, because we've seen a little dip in the numbers when the 49ers are losing. Winning streak is happening. Numbers are going right back up. So keep winning, 49ers, and we may just hit that number.
Yes, absolutely. It's funny. One of the listeners hollered at me on Twitter and said that he could hear in my voice the pain of the 49ers winning. He says it because it's good for business if I'm being negative and I'm hunting for clicks or something like that. That's not the case at all. Like, it's better for us when the 49ers are winning. So I don't know what
Yeah.
you sensed. I don't know what you sensed from me, but it is definitely better for us when the 49ers are winning. And it's a lot more fun to talk about a winning football team and some positive things that are going on with the team and watching good play every week. That's much better than finding bad things to talk about, even though sometimes in the early part of the season, some of the bad things about the 49ers was slapping us right in the face. It's like Diamante says on Twitter. He said, if you ain't listening to at BD Peacock and at Eric_Crocker, you got to get it together. And
Let's
I'm
go. Get it together.
appreciate all the support out there from all the listeners on YouTube and Spotify. And if you're listening on Apple, look, we got even more listeners on Apple than Spotify. They don't do the wrapped thing, so I don't think we'll see any of those numbers and know exactly how many episodes and how many hours people are spending out there. But they're out there, and we know you, and we appreciate you.
Yeah.
Elijah Mitchell, how about this? How often can you remember, Croc, that a rookie got a veteran rest day? That's what Elijah Mitchell got after some heavy carries recently. He got the day off Wednesday, and he returned to practice Thursday back with the team. But, I mean, that's big. He's getting the veteran treatment as a rookie. Like, he is fully entrenched as the dude at running back.
Well, he needs it. He's had over 50 carries in the last 2 games. So, yeah, get him that rest for sure.
Not surprising, not practicing was Deebo Samuel with the groin. Marcel Harrison concussion protocol. They were working a little bit on the side, but they were not practicing. D Ford just not around at all. And I believe it's the Atlanta game because they opened D Ford's practice window off of IR, and you have 3 weeks to join the team after that, or 21 days. So he's got a couple more weeks, maybe 10 days or so left. It's before that Atlanta game. If he's not activated, then he's going to be out for the year. So it's not great news that D Ford's still not able to practice. He wasn't even working on the side, not at practice at all. But here's a big one. This one from Cam Inman, and most of the 49ers beat writers at practice were noting this. Linebacker Fred Warner, who looked like early in the week he was flat out just not going to play. He was running on the side with jersey and helmet on, looking like he doesn't want to miss a game for the first time in his career. I forgot that he hadn't even missed a game ever in his career so far. He's been an Iron Man. Maybe Fred Warner will make an appearance in this football game. But if you listen to this podcast a little bit later, when we get to the keys to victory, linebacker is definitely one of those. And look, Fred Warner can play. That'll be huge for the 49ers against the Seahawks.
You need him. I mean, he's the green dot on the defense. And if he's not going, I believe I heard Kyle Shanahan, talk, say some good things about Aziz Shire. So, but nah, man, we don't want it to get to that point. We want Fred Warner out there flying around. I think just the energy he brings more than anything, Fred Warner, obviously he's a good football player, all pro Fred, but it's that energy, like just the excitement, when he makes tackles, gets in guys' faces, there's that kind of famous clip of him kind of getting in Aaron Rodgers' face. I like the way he carries himself on the football field. Reminds me of me, but just like a good version. So, he needs to be out there.
Dude, I don't see any rings on his finger.
That's right. Definitely probably didn't get one at BYU.
There was some other veteran days off this week of practice, so that's nothing of note. Guys like Trent Williams and Nick Bosa and Alex Mack. JaMychal Hasty, though, limited at practice. Looks like he might be coming back possibly from his ankle this week. And Trey Sermon not practicing. He might go on IR. We knew that already. And Dre Greenlaw is the other one dealing with his groin injury. Left the game last week after coming back from IR. He still has not practiced yet this week either. But there's still one more practice to go Friday, and some of those folks that haven't practiced yet could get back on the field. But as of now, that's how the injury report looks for the 49ers at those Seattle Seahawks. Keys to victory coming up, and one particular player that Croc and I want to shout out for his play so far this year next. But first, I want to let the listeners know about Boost Mobile. You listen to podcasts for the power of knowledge, especially this podcast. We just talked about all the people that are listening to this podcast. I hope their brains are filled after they're listening to us. And look, even if not, at least you're enjoying it, right? But when you switch to Boost Mobile, you get the power of saving money, because with Boost, you get the power of a free 5G phone. So you can listen to all the podcasts you want and all the latest episodes. The power of 3 unlimited data lines for $30 a month per line, so your family can harness all that brain power too. And the power of one of America's largest 5G networks. So you can do it all at the speed of 5G. I don't think I even have 5G, Croc. With all that money you'll save and all that knowledge you'll gain, just how powerful will you become? Switch to Boost Mobile and find out. Get a free Samsung Galaxy A32 5G when you switch to one of America's largest 5G networks. More power to save. Boost Mobile, free phone to new customers, and 1 per line. Additional restrictions apply. Offers and coverage not available everywhere or for all phones and networks. See boostmobile.com for details. This holiday season, grab the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. Yep, I'm talking about Built Bar, or even better than a candy bar, in my opinion. Built Bar, filled with so much holiday goodness, rich, decadent flavors, covered in 100% legitimate, real, and delicious chocolate, and amazingly low in calories, low in sugar, low net carbs, and low fat, but high in protein. They will keep you full, and they will taste delicious and make you feel healthy while you're doing it. So you get the best of both worlds. So many flavors: double chocolate, cookies and cream, peanut butter brownie, raspberry, mint brownie, and some extra new flavors for the holiday season. So go to built.com and find out what those new flavors are. Get a mixed box of Built Bars if you're not sure what flavor you want, and you can give the gift of Built Bar. Give the gift of extra healthy and delicious fuel to someone you know that might want to use it. Want to cozy up with something warm? How about this? Here's a holiday secret. Dip your Built Bar into a piping hot cup of cocoa or coffee. Let it melt a little. Give your beverage a little bit of that Built Bar flavor. Plus, you'll have a nice melty Built Bar to go with it. Be sure to have a couple napkins on hand for that melty, delicious chocolate. So go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, get 15% off your order. That is promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Croc. Let's talk about Emmanuel Mosley.
Let's talk about it.
I was going to save him for our keys to victory, but I think he needs his own separate little segment here because of how good he's played this year. And it's worth the price of admission, right? DK Metcalf versus Emmanuel Mosley. I love that matchup. They've gone toe-to-toe a few times, and each has won a little bit, I think. But Emmanuel Mosley's played fantastic this year. I was looking at his PFF grades. I don't think he's got as high as a grade from PFF that I would have expected. I'm going to go through some of his numbers here, but you had a stat that really displays a little bit more, right? What Emmanuel Mosley has done so far this year.
Yeah, here we go. Coverage snaps, or not coverage snaps, so it's targets, right? Emmanuel Mosley has given up 0 touchdowns on 51 targets this season. That is second only to Tre'Davious White, who has given up 0 touchdowns on 64 targets. So now I think his PFF is they're kind of contradicting that a little bit, right? They're saying he gave up a touchdown against the Vikings. We can't figure out when that touchdown happened.
In the Vikings game, they did credit him with the first touchdown in coverage, but the only 2 touchdown passes in that game were to Adam Thielen. And I would credit Jimmy Ward and Hufanga with those touchdowns if I had to attach one defender to it. Hufanga was in a terrible spot coming across the field. I have a feeling it might be that play because maybe, and I'm trying to think who the defenders were that were trailing underneath with the receivers because they were running crossers on that one. Maybe that's the one they're trying to give to Emmanuel Mosley. Was he supposed to carry the receiver all the way across the field on that? I don't know. But the other one definitely wasn't on Mosley. That was, zone. That was Jimmy Ward zoned up in the middle of the field in the end zone.
I think that's why players get so upset with PFF, right? Because they're like, dude, how are you? You don't even know my responsibilities. I stay away from that. People notice on Twitter, I give a lot of, I'll talk about, positional play, receivers, defensive backs, but I stay away from talking about exactly what someone's supposed to do because you never know. And even if you think you do, right? Even if it's something that you're familiar with and it's like, hey, this guy's supposed to do that. You don't know if the coaches in the meetings or the players said, hey, if we get this look, I know we're supposed to do XYZ, but do this instead on this play. And it could, very well look like you're doing the wrong play, but you're doing what you went over with either your teammates or your coaches. So I stay away from like the criticism of like certain concepts.
And Mosley still has a pretty good grade for PFF, but I thought he was going to be up in the top 10 corners in the league, and he wasn't quite as high as I thought. He's still got good numbers here. He's only, according to PFF, they've got 49 targets instead of the 51 targets that we've seen quoted elsewhere. And receivers catching 57.1% of their receptions on that. So 28 catches on 49 targets, a long of 33. He leads the team in pass breakups. He's got 8 pass breakups on the year. So to me, Emmanuel Mosley is just flat out balling out and playing really good ball. And I don't think the statistics could really even bear it out because to me, if you're playing against the 49ers, go to the other side because that's how good Emmanuel Mosley's playing. I think the worst play he's made all year is probably that pass interference in the end zone against the Colts, right? That's really the only play I can look at and say that was a bad play from Emmanuel Mosley. And I know you've kind of defended him on that one, but that's it.
No, I didn't really defend him. I didn't really defend him on that. Like, no, he was wrong. He just bear hugged him. My defense was, they have poor footing out there. The weather was bad. The field was probably a little, tough out there. And I think from that standpoint, it's just a little more difficult to kind of cover. And he very well could just lost his footing, and that made him kind of just grab, kind of panic a little bit. Oh, I'm slipping a little bit. Even if we don't see the slip, there could have been a slight like lost his footing, grabbed the guy, and that's what it looked like. But I think I said because a lot of people are like, oh, Emmanuel Mosley never gets his head around. I'm like, dude, I've seen him use that same exact technique, look through the receiver, play chest to chest, and make plays on the ball plenty of times.
One of my keys to victory was Mosley versus DK. How do you like that matchup for Mosley? What have you seen in those matchups in the past, Croc?
Well, in the past, I think I don't want to say it's gone in Mosley's favor, but it's more, I think it would, favor him a little bit more than DK Metcalf. He's done a very good job on him, whether it's intermediate routes or vertically pushing routes. He's done a really good job. Tough thing with DK is at any time he can get you, but it hasn't really been the case against Mosley. And I think right now it really benefits Mosley because of how the lack of DK's usage. He didn't see a target until late in the fourth quarter against the Washington football team. That is not ideal. Or it is more ideal if they continue to kind of go away from him, but there's just no rhythm. And it sounds like this is something that's been happening ever since Russell Wilson came back from the finger injury.
I feel like if DK is going to eat against somebody, it's probably going to be Norman on the other side. And he, according to PFF, his passer rating against is like 126.3, which is not great. He's had a bunch of penalties. He has been punching the ball out, which is a nice bonus. But does that match up on the other side worry you a little bit, Croc, with Norman and DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett too, because he's a really good receiver. Like they haven't been utilized recently, which is you hope the trend continues. But I'm worried that this could be a week where one of those guys breaks out, and I feel like just the physicality of Norman and DK, I think that could be an explosive matchup and one that maybe you should get your popcorn ready because there might be either a lot of talk, and we've seen DK get a little irritated recently. A lot of talk, maybe a lot of explosive plays, maybe an explosive play the other way for the 49ers. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think Norman versus anyone, it scares me a little bit, right? Now I'm not like the 49er fan base that's panicking every time, with Josh Norman out there. I just know he's just limited with speed, and at any time somebody can get him. I don't think he's played terrible. Well, I mean, except for the passer rating against him. That's not good. But I don't think he's been like terrible on a play-to-play basis. But anytime his lack of speed, him being older, a little longer in the tooth, that can affect him. So, yeah, I'm worried from that standpoint, especially against a Seahawks team that, definitely wants to throw the ball downfield. We saw them throw the ball downfield several times against the Washington football team to Tyler Lockett. And he's kind of the forgotten man in this offense, but he's been the most productive receiver.
You don't want this to be the get well game. More on that with the keys to victory coming up. One last note here when it comes to the defensive backfield. I feel like we need to give just a little bit of love real quick to Jimmy Ward and Kwaski T too, especially
Yeah.
Jimmy Ward, since we're talking DBs and I think just having Tart and Ward back there, having the two veterans starting, I think that helps everybody out. I think that helps the front seven out. I think it helps the corners out, and I think it just settles everything down. Have you noticed that as well?
Definitely. I mean, they're good safeties. They're veterans, and I mean, these are guys. Talk about having a rapport. They play high school football together, you know. So this is going way back. Just understanding how to communicate with one another. They played their entire NFL career with each other. It feels like they're almost injured at the same time. It's just, they might as well be twins. But just having those guys back there, seasoned vets, they've seen everything, and I think because of how long they've been a part of the 49ers. I don't know. I think we kind of forget that, but these are guys that are approaching 30 years old. And, that's a little long in their career, but having them back there, I think it makes all the difference in the world. I think having Ward, that allows them to kind of free up Hufanga and let him do his thing out there in space and kind of read and react. I really like the dynamic they have with really not just Ward and Tart, as you mentioned, but Hufanga as well, and how having those other two guys allows them to play Hufanga. I really like it.
All right, more keys to victory for the 49ers to beat those Seahawks coming up. And of course, you can bet on that football game. Niners favored on the road in Seattle at betonline.ag. It remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. BetOnline has you covered for more props, more odds, and more lines than ever before as football season continues to march to the playoffs. So head on over to the new updated desktop or mobile website, sign up today, and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code LOCKEDON to receive that bonus. Not just football. You've got basketball, NHL, boxing, UFC, your favorite Vegas casino games. So don't wait. Take advantage of all the amazing offers for the 2021 season and those futures into the 2022 season. Here's some bets you can make at BetOnline. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Mac Jones, Micah Parsons, Defensive Rookie of the Year. Trey Lance, unfortunately, not in the running right now for Offensive Rookie of the Year. We may not see him again the rest of the season. Will the lines go 16-1? You can bet on that. You can bet on Matthew Stafford throwing a pick six for the fourth straight game, or you can bet on Jonathan Taylor getting a touchdown for the 10th straight game. A ton of lines, a ton of props at BetOnline, which is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Cocky, it's keys to victory time. We talked about the defensive backfield. I think we got to go to linebacker. Now, this news about Fred Warner. And look, he can want to play all day. If he's not physically able to, he's not going to be able to play. And the trainers will hold him out. The fact he's got his helmet and his uniform on, he's running on the sideline with vigor. I love hearing that. And he's the type of guy, a little bit like DeForest Buckner, leader of the defense. You can always count on him to be there and play. And I think that was so important in DeForest Buckner that they lost. And it might even be a bigger subtraction than we realize having Fred Warner not out there if he's not able to play. And as of now, I still expect that he won't play, but hopefully he surprises us and he's out there. Azeez al-Shaair, he's been awesome for the 49ers. He'll be manning middle linebacker for the 49ers. I believe in his ability. I think he's a really good player. But after that, it starts to worry me a little bit. No Greenlaw, no Marcel Harris. You've got Demetrius Flanagan-Foles out there. He's a pretty athletic linebacker. Is he a starting caliber guy? I don't know. Is that a place the Seahawks could really go after the 49ers? Maybe Hufanga. We talked about Hufanga maybe being a future linebacker post-draft. He's looked pretty good at safety. He's really good with the ball in front of him. And when he's in the box as a safety, he fires off, like a linebacker. I think you could use him in a similar fashion to how the Seahawks use Jamal Adams, sort of like a quasi linebacker a lot of times. So maybe that's a way that the 49ers try to help out their linebacker group. I don't even know who the third linebacker would be. Both of those, remember there was it was Justin Hilliard from Ohio State and Elijah no, not Elijah Mitchell, not Elijah Moore, Elijah something else with an M from
Not Elijah Molden. That's the DB from Washington.
I remember that corner. Who's the undrafted free agent linebacker? Anyway, he's not on the 49ers anymore. I don't think those guys are even on the practice squad. Is there a linebacker on the practice squad they can call up? Like who's going to play linebacker? If they go out there with three backers, who are they even going to be? Because they don't have three backers right now.
where they're not going to go out there with 3 backers and hopefully nobody else goes down. I think what you probably have to do is just play more nickel. And that's what they did last game. They just resorted to playing more nickel. You have Kawhi Williams. He's a stud. He's in there. He's physical. Maybe you have a big nickel package where you do have Hufanga in there playing a little bit more down around the line of scrimmage, or Tart's used to playing in that type of role, and you could use him down there. So probably going to have to do something along the lines of that and not really fill in with an extra linebacker.
One thing I like about Tart that I haven't liked as much about Hufanga is when the safeties interchange and Jimmy Ward comes down and then the strong safety goes back and plays a little bit deep. I still trust Tart more there than I do Hufanga. Yeah. We saw Hufanga get lost on that one Thielen touchdown in the last game. Hufanga's so much better when he's near the action. He can see it in front of him and go downhill. He's not nearly as good in reverse from what we've seen so far this year. So if I was to choose one, I would put Hufanga at that dime linebacker spot, and I would have Tart be the interchangeable safety with Ward.
Right. I think there's one thing that you talked about earlier about the linebacker position, and you talked about Azeez and how he's good. I think he's good when you have Fred Warner. When you start to put a little bit more attention on him and more responsibility on him, I'm not saying he can't do it, but that would make me a little nervous.
Yeah, you wonder how much everyone plays up because Fred Warner's there. Even if Fred Warner's not being amazing and making all these plays, is he making everyone else better? So that's
right.
That's a big question, and that's something that worries me a little bit, because you don't want the Seahawks to get some confidence, and you don't want the Seahawks to find their mojo against the 49ers, and that could be one reason they do. Another reason they do is Russell Wilson. Like, this is the biggest key to the game. You can't let Russell Wilson get well, and part of that could be attacking the linebackers in the middle of the field. Russ hasn't really done that. He was not thrown over the middle of the field at all. He's like the reverse Jimmy Garoppolo. He's only throwing outside, throwing rainbows down the field. I don't know if it's because of his hand injury or what it is, but Russell Wilson has not been himself. He's been bad. The 49ers cannot let Russ get his mojo back. So, I mean, that's probably the number one key to the entire game. And you don't want the Seahawks to get well against you. You don't want them to gain confidence early in the game, but it's all around Russell Wilson, right? He's been a magic man against the 49ers. He's been that guy in his career. You can't let him start to get that ball rolling downhill.
You can't let Russ cook, right? No. If there is something wrong with that injury, you got to make it apparent and make him blame that finger. Like, I don't know, I train athletes, right? So a lot of times there's kids like, oh, my ankle hurts. But if you watch them when they're just playing around, it's like, what ankle injury? Like, they're perfectly fine. But then the moment something gets tough, it's like, oh, my ankle. Like, I told you it was hurt before. So hopefully that's something that happens with Russell Wilson, where he looks, he hasn't been playing well, but we don't want to give him a reason to start feeling better.
Yeah, like Nick Bosa gets off of him, and then all of a sudden he walks back after third down, and the punter walks off of the field, and he's kind of shaking his hand as he walks to the sideline.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you want to see if you're a 49ers fan in Seattle this Sunday. Any other keys to victory for you, Croc? I got a couple more.
Well, I think, definitely just George Kittle. There is no Deebo Samuel, and I think the first person everybody thinks about is Ayuk. But it's like, no, George Kittle, that's one of your highest paid players on your offense, especially your highest paid weapon. You need to he needs to have a big game. He has to pick up the slack. One catch for 15 yards or 12 yards, whatever he had last game, that's not going to cut it in this type of game without Deebo Samuel. Maybe it's just, he's just not targeted as much. Whatever the case is, 49ers need a big game from him. Whether it's in the run game and his blocking, or if it's downfield pass catching. Big game from George Kittle. I think he's definitely one of the big keys to this victory.
Huge key, massive key for the 49ers offense. George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk. They've got a lot of slack to pick up. Deebo Samuel has been as productive as both of them combined this year. And that's even with a little mini breakout from Brandon Ayuk. And a lot of people have talked about, oh, look how much better Brandon Ayuk is playing. 4 catches, 70 yards is what he's averaging in the last 4 games. And that's amazing compared to his early season production. That's good. If you have 4 catches every week, 4.5 catches every week and 70 yards, you'll be a 1,000-yard receiver. So that, that's not bad. It's nothing to scoff at. But I want to see a game from Brandon Ayuk. I want to see a game from George Kittle, 150 yards, running through guys, running around guys, making big plays. We've seen that from Deebo every single week. We haven't seen a lot of that from these guys this year. So that there's a ton of slack to be picked up for Deebo Samuel. if he's out in this game, and it's going to be a team effort, but it starts with Ayuk and Kittle for sure. Like those guys have to lead the team, and especially Kittle. He's been around. He's a leader. He's high paid. Go do your thing. Go earn that paycheck, right? Make big, big plays.
I think most 49er fans will tell you that he's okay with not getting the ball and blocking, but I don't want to hear that. Like, no, dude, go make some plays.
When there's other people making a ton of plays, you're winning football games, that's fine. But you can't come out of Seattle and he has 2-3 catches, right? And you lose. You can't happen. Cannot happen. And how about this one? You have a Jimmy G stat, right? Let's end with this Jimmy G stat. You have Jimmy G.
Oh yeah,
keep it going. Stay Jimmy W, right? We dubbed him Jimmy W for all the wins. This is amazing, and I know wins is not a quarterback stat, and people will push back on me, and I push back on that too. But there's something to it. The Niners win with Jimmy Garoppolo for whatever reason, even if it ain't always pretty. What was the stat, Croc?
So you got highest win percentage since 2017 among active quarterbacks. And at number one, you have Patrick Mahomes, which, obviously he hit the ground running. I believe he won that very last start his rookie year. So, that helps. And then obviously after that, he went to, 3 straight AFC championships and a Super Bowl, 2 Super Bowl appearances.
2 Super Bowls.
All right. So obviously a ton of wins. He's at the top. Then you got Lamar Jackson. A little underrated, but he's definitely won a ton while playing for Baltimore. Then you got Tom Brady. Obviously, he's done a whole lot of winning. Had like one slightly down year, and I believe 2019. But aside from that, a lot of wins. Tampa Bay, Super Bowl, all that good stuff. And then at 4, you have Jimmy Garoppolo.
Jimmy W.
So the way their winning percentage goes, you got Patrick Mahomes at 78.789. You have Lamar Jackson, 0.787. So he's right there neck and neck with Patrick Mahomes with wins. You got Tom Brady, 0.759. And then you have Jimmy Garoppolo, 0.700. And after him, you have Aaron Rodgers. So I think really my biggest takeaway from this, and again, I think most people will tell you it's not all Jimmy Garoppolo, but Kyle Shanahan is able to scheme things up and get Jimmy Garoppolo or put him in position to execute the way that he's capable of executing, and that way results in wins 70% of the time.
All I heard from that right there, Crocky, was that Garoppolo is better than Aaron Rodgers. So
yeah, 100%.
I'm going to run with that. Just like how Locked On 49ers passed up Locked On Packers in the latest network email for listens for the week. I'm talking to you, Peter Bukowski. Have a fun little rivalry going on with the Locked On Packers, the 2 most popular NFL shows here on the network, and we go back and forth with who's number 1. I don't know if Peter's going to get it back, Croc, now that we got the YouTube channel going, and we get to count those as well, because we were handicapped there for a while. Peter was rolling with his YouTube channel. We didn't have one, so it's going to be interesting. I think it might be ours to stay.
Do they? Is that how they do it? Do they count our views as listens?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's all counted together.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, we're going to take off then.
We are already taking off. Thank you to everybody who has subscribed already. If not, click the button, subscribe, thumbs up, and all of that on YouTube. Thanks to everybody who's listening to us in their car or while they're at the gym or wherever it is you listen to your audio-only podcast. We appreciate you. We appreciate all the love. We love seeing those Spotify Wrapped from everybody who's listening to the podcast and supporting us all year long. And, of course, Croc and I will be right back here after the game Sunday, doing it up. You want to do another live, Croc?
Let's do it.
All right, we're going to go live after Week 13, 49ers, Seahawks. Do a little rapid react post-game, so you're going to want to tune in. You're going to want to be subscribed. You want to click that bell so you know when we go live after the game with the post-game rapid react, and we're doing it up every day right here, as always. Thanks for making us your first listen on Locked On 49ers.